your host, Christene Marie. Tonight is another late night episode, and we are going to be talking about, frankly, something that I was musing on while I was driving home pretty late from DC. It was around, I guess, 10:15 that I was driving home from DC, but I ended up just thinking about this topic around why is it so hard to get out of a funk, and why does it feel like once we're in a funk, it's like we're stuck. It's almost like near impossible to get out. And y'all, we're not taught how to get out of a funk. We're taught from 5 years old, 4 years old, how to do the ABCs. 1 + 1 = 2. We're taught the most kind of functional ways of existing, but we're not taught how to exist in our own body. We're not taught how to exist with our emotions and in relationship with other people in that way. And so I want to talk about this because this is something that, man, it's like it causes so many issues. It causes so many issues because what happens is that we get in our funk, and then everything that comes in our way, it's like a tornado. We start getting wound up, and then everybody that starts coming in our way, we just eat up with it. And then we start blaming other people for something that we're just trying to justify why we feel that way in the first place. We know that it's not them. We know that in actuality, it's not really them that we're getting angry at. But I mean, honestly, it's so tempting to want to find somebody to give me a reason for why I was upset in the first place. And there's something about, also, I'm at an Airbnb and I'm staying here for the next like 6 weeks. And so I'm just unpacking. That's part of the reason why I'm coming on here so late. But I'm unpacking and I'm like exploring at the same time. So that's why I was looking up here, because this is where the cabinet is. I'll show you. This is where my little cabinet is, and I'm starting to unload my things. Speaking of, I really love clean products, and this face stuff, it's by Virginia Soaps and Scents, and it only has palm coconut, beeswax, palm kernel, grapeseed, olive oil, castor, sweet orange, essential oils. Isn't that amazing? So anyways, I digress. This whole conversation around getting into a funk, we're not taught what to do with our emotions. We're not taught how to engage with the rest of the world when we're upset. JP and Joy Gaming, I just saw you join. Hello, thank you for coming on tonight. Y'all, if we could really understand where our emotions come from, why we're getting annoyed in the first place, that will actually really help us with attribution for our pain. For so much of the time, we go around blaming everybody else about why we're so upset, why we're angry, when in reality, if we were to actually take some time and think about why am I upset in the first place, then we could really actually identify and kind of diagnose. It's like literally putting on our hat, our Sherlock Holmes hat, and going to find the problem, and like really tracing the source and going down to the root of the issue and being curious. There's something about when we are feeling in a funk, and if we're feeling anything other than curious, it's going to be really hard to find the root of the issue. If we're feeling judgmental towards ourselves, if we're feeling angry towards ourselves, that's hard for us to then be able to kind of see the truth and come to realize what is really going on at the core of the issue. So long as judgment clouds our view, it's like when you go to the optometrist and you actually put your face up against the dials and you like shift them and you start seeing more clearly. That's what it's like when we take on the lens of curiosity. We start to be able to see more clearly. We can see ourselves more clearly. There's this text that says, take the log out of your eye. So the more that we actually take the log out of our eye, we can see clearly, to see ourselves and then to see other people. So when we're talking about being in a funk and how do we get out of it, the first thing that we really have to do is put on the lens of curiosity and ask why. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling upset towards other people? And the more we ask why, the more that we really dig deep, the more that we'll really come to figure out what's really going on in the first place. And that question, why, it's so simple. But the thing that's really beautiful is that it's actually the same question we grew up asking in the first place. When we think about kids, we always kind of roll our eyes at kids and we're like, stop asking me why so many times. But there's an innate curiosity in kids that really helps them to look at the world with wonder. They're curious. They're not judging what they see. And so if we were to look at the world with the same type of curiosity, we would be able to look at ourselves and see what's really going on and, man, extend so much more love for what's happening. And I just saw here, Mimosa, you said balance. It's balance. I love that. That's so much of what it is. It's really balance around being able to see the full range of the spectrum, because y'all, for so long, as we can only see the bad or only see the good, we're not seeing the full picture. We're not actually seeing reality. So if we're really, truly curious and we allow for why to ask it and to kind of take off judgment and be like, okay, well, what's it going to show me? What am I actually going to find when I dig down deep, when I actually do the work to look within us? Maybe I'm going to see something that needs to grow or heal or change. And maybe I'm also going to see something that's really pure and needs to be healed. A lot of times when I feel like I'm in a funk, I find that there's usually both. There's the light and darkness. There's the good and bad. There's never just one or the other. I grew up in a really Christian conservative environment, and it was very dogmatic, it was very black and white. And so when I started kind of taking away the boundary lines of like a very harsh box in which I kind of viewed the world, I could start seeing that there was a lot more color. There was a lot more beauty and array of the spectrum. It's not just one or the other. So long as we're looking at this or that, but we allow, actually, my therapist said this to me probably 2 years ago, and she said, one of the most important things you can do is allow for the word and. I feel this and I feel that. And that's still a hard one for me. It's kind of like that whole concept of having your cake and eating it too. And that's, I think, just human nature. We want both. We feel in a funk and we want to get out of it. We feel upset and we want to feel joy. And I think with that, one thing that's been really freeing for me is to actually there's 2 different ways that I've been able to kind of help myself get out of a funk that I just wanted to share with you all tonight. And frankly, I'd love to hear what has worked for you guys. What actually helps you get out of the funk and almost like come on the other side of it. One thing for me, yesterday, there's something about being in a funk where I feel like I'm almost like descending downward. And I'm like, I feel like I'm sinking, when you really start feeling negative and start feeling bad, it feels almost like this dark hole that it's sucking you in. And so now that I kind of understand what this feels like, I'm like, okay, now I know what to look out for. And so yesterday I was driving and I started feeling like I was almost getting sucked down this black hole of negativity. And I actually had a phone call that I needed to make it was a business call. And I ended up calling that person, and I was like, okay, I know that I'm not, let's say, in the right headspace. So I called them and I was ready to kind of say like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit in a funk. And I've done that before and just been like, hey, just so you know, I'm feeling a little bit in a funk, but just wanted to share that with you. And it's been so interesting because when I actually do engage with other people, there's something about it that I'm no longer focused inside. I actually like pick up my head and I look around, and then I get to care for somebody else or give advice to somebody else or help somebody else or say, hey, would you help me? Either way, whether I'm asking for help or giving it, I actually take my eyes off of myself. And when I start to do that, there's something about the giving and receiving of help that I think is really healing for us. Like, we're made for connection. We're made for community. And so if we're really just distracting ourselves by looking inward to the extent that we're not asking why, we're not being curious, And therefore, we're not really able to get to the root of the problem and really give ourselves the help that we need. If we're not able to do that, then kind of the next best thing is let's go have community, have connection with other people, because man, that's what we're made for. And y'all, so many of the reasons why we're feeling in a funk to begin with is because our core fears are actually being kind of activated. For me, a lot of times it's because I'm wondering if I'm wanted, I'm wondering if I belong, I'm wondering if I'm loved. And for so many people that I talk to, that's usually it. It's a core fear that starts us getting down this pathway of being in a funk to begin with. So when we actually are willing to invite somebody in and pursue someone else, whether we're asking for help or giving it, it just takes our eyes off of ourselves and really helps us get out of it. And then the second thing that has really helped me, honestly, there's something about self-perpetuated, self-applied dopamine hits. Y'all, we can administer our own dopamine hits. And when I say dopamine hit, I mean like there's literally things that stimulate dopamine in the brain. Exercise is one, going for a run is one. The most I just saw you say alignment is one. Yes, like these things are so helpful that can really kind of get us out of the funk that we're in. And for me, one of those things, did you guys know that singing causes dopamine spikes in the brain? And that's something. So tonight I was in the car and I just started singing and it made a big difference for me. So number one, for us to actually kind of cure our own funk, go inward, ask why, be curious, put on the lens of a kid and be wondrous, wondering about our body, wondering about our soul, wondering about the world, be curious, ask what fear is being stimulated. And then if we want to get out of the funk, call a friend, offer to help them or ask for help, reach out for community and connection. And then self-apply dopamine hits. It's so easy to do. Here's the real question, though, that I want to leave you all with tonight. Do you want to stay in your funk? Because sometimes we really do. We actually don't want to get out of the funk to begin with. And so if the question is, yeah, I'd like to stay in the funk, then you're actually doing it to yourself. So the thing that's really cool about all of this is that we actually are never really the victim when it comes to our emotions. And it's really just kind of a practice of learning how to master them. Austin, you said this is all just common sense, right? Honestly, I'm glad that it all sounds like common sense to you. I had to learn this stuff. I wasn't raised with learning how to be intelligent around my emotions. I wasn't taught how to engage with emotions. So I think it's really exciting to cultivate skills and really learn how to get ourselves out of being in a funk or just having a negative emotions. There's a book called Letting Go by David Hawkins, and he talks about emotions as effectively energies that as we level up in an energetic level, there's numerical value assignments to it. So shame is like the lowest you can get, and that's level 50. And then once you get up to pride, that's level 150. But then as you get up to the level of courage, that's 200. And we can see it when somebody's coming in shame, they're kind of hunched over, they're a little bit more small, maybe they're not talking as loud, and you can tell that they have like a lower energy. But if someone's in the energy level of courage, they're shoulders back, kind of coming forward and just being excited to engage with you. And so at this thought of being in a funk, it kind of lowers us down in this emotional frequency and emotional level where we're actually not performing at our peak. We're actually decreasing our energy levels as we go lower and lower into this negative energy cycle. And then we pick up other people in our wake like a tornado does. So I love, I think all of us have different things to offer each other in terms of what works, what has been something that picks you up out of your funk and what stuff that picks me up out of it. And I think that that's probably one of the most important things we can teach our kids to do. I think that this is something that is actually actively being encouraged to be taught in school, because for so many of us, we're learning how to do this as adults. And then we wonder why relationships are so hard. We wonder why communication is so hard, because for the most part, man, we're just trying to survive and we don't have the tools to actually exist in and be in success. Austin, I just saw your note. This is a towel. I just moved into this Airbnb, so I'm here for the next 6 weeks. But yes, this is a towel. Anyways, y'all, thank you so much for joining me today.